recently a teacher in Leicester, and she joins me now. Morning, Lindsay.
Good morning.
So, from a teacher's point of view, what's your perspective on this?
Well, I'm glad you said from a teacher's point of view, because that's the only kind of like point of view I can give, really. I have been listening to a lot of different opinions, and really for me, I can't help but feel that we need to be seeking resolutions to the problems, to the issues, rather than kind of looking at how can we fix it in the short term. You might have read my article, and I've been teaching for 10 years, so this is something that's not new, and it's free school meals weren't around 10 years ago kind of thing, and those problems were still there, and they're still there now.
So what's it like then when you're a teacher and you're teaching kids who are hungry? How do you deal with that, and how are you aware that they are hungry? Do they tell you about that?
Well, I mean, this is the other thing that I've been discussing quite a bit, is that the children that are really, really in need are usually quite quiet about it. It takes you to be picking up on those signs and be perhaps thinking that they're really quiet in the morning, or just getting them into a habit and saying, have you had something to eat this morning, or just, putting toast and making food available so that they can just help themselves, because quite often kids are quite proud about things like that. And from my experience anyway, I've not necessarily noticed that many will turn up and say, oh my goodness, I've not eaten, that's what's wrong with me. They might not have even realised that that's why they're not concentrating very well.
What is it like, though, as a teacher to have to deal with that, and how do you deal with that? What can you do?
I mean, I've always been predominantly in special, alternative education, and we've always had that kind of extra budget, so we've had breakfast clubs at break time, there's snacks put out, so there's not really a big deal made of it that some of those children might not actually have that food at home. But in my article, I've admitted I've had food in my car boot. I'll take snacks into school, and that's coming out of my own money, but purely because I'd rather them have something in their stomach and be able to get on with the lesson kind of thing. I've never really thought about the debate of kind of where do we come into that. It's always, for me, just been second nature to make sure the kids are okay before I get on with class.
What's it like, Lindsay, though, teaching a child who is hungry? How do you work with that? And what can or can't you say?
Well, I mean, the tough thing is that discussion of how important is the curriculum when, on the other hand, you've got a child that at home might not be eating, or might not be clothed, or washed, and those kind of basic needs, if they're not being met. Where does the curriculum come into that? Where's that flexibility to say, let's start at the absolute base point of it, and make sure that at home the adults are educated about budgeting and making healthy meals from scratch, and all those kind of skills.
I just wonder, to people listening, I was thinking this myself as I was listening to you there, Lindsay. How many of us actually know or remember that feeling of what it's like to be really hungry? I'll hold my hand up here and say I cannot remember the last time. I'm in a fortunate position where I get to have that. But actually, when have we witnessed that ourselves, to put ourselves in a position? And what is it like trying to concentrate when you're hungry, and all you can think of is when you're going to get to next eat? Right, now that aside, just tell us about your blogs. You alluded to it earlier on. For anyone who's not aware, tell us about this blog that you've created and your reasons for it.
So I've been a kind of an aspiring writer for the last couple of years. I've published a couple of books, and then when my main career as a teacher came to an end very recently, I decided to do an article on what makes me a bad teacher, which sounds a bit controversial, but the point was the rules that we've had to break, one of them being feeding students, technically make us bad teachers, but actually you have to break the rules to be a good teacher sometimes in this kind of day and age. So I just wanted to start that conversation. I know there's plenty of teachers out there that wouldn't have felt like they had the courage, or that they could publish that kind of thing and put it out there for people to scrutinise, because their jobs are at stake. So because I was walking away from the job, I thought, right, perfect timing, combine the two things that I love, which is writing and teaching, and put together an article, and obviously it's ended up with me talking to you this morning, so that's been a really, really positive for me so far.
Good for you. Now, you said you've been a teacher for 10 years, and that this isn't necessarily a problem now, it's been going on for a while. What is the solution, do you think, to all this, Lindsay?
Well, I mean, I've been thinking about it carefully. I thought, what if he asked, what am I going to say? But I thought, in school, I mean, like I say, I was lucky I was in alternative education, but making that kind of the money that's, if there is money available for free school meals, making that available to the class as a whole or to the school as a whole, and saying, right, here's the budget for the week. We've got to feed however many children. We've got to sort out breakfast and we've got to sort out lunch. Here's a shopping list. Can you work as a team to work out, what's the best budget that you can follow and the best way to spend that money, and kind of get the students involved in looking at how the cash is spent in, because then those life skills are being taught right to the core of it, which is the student that's going to be growing up. And then even kind of at home, is there areas where there can be a community allotment, something that's sustainable in the long run, where they can make small meals out of the produce, and that kind of thing. Does that make sense? So that
I do.
Dependence over a little bit.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, we could go into the funding thing. I mean, Boris Johnson has said, okay, we're not going to necessarily back a second time this call by Marcus Rashford, but we are giving money to councils to distribute, and we've increased universal credit, which goes into people who need it. But I just want to ask you before you go, Lindsay, because you say you were a teacher and you did it for 10 years. What do you do now? What made you leave teaching?
Well, it was a number of things, really. I mean, I'm concentrating on my writing career, so that's the main reason that I want to push that side of things. But writing the article, when I walked away, I kind of wanted people to know that I've not walked away because I couldn't handle it or because I've failed for children. I wanted to say, look, I've done 10 years. This is what I've done in those 10 years. And for me, I feel like I've given my best part of that kind of thing. But, it's time for a change for me as well, because it is a stressful job. It does take a lot from you. And I think that was the point of the article, really, was just to show that this is what a teacher gives. Get into teaching and try and change a life, but it's got a shelf life for adults as well.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for your time this morning. If people want to read your blog post, it's very, very good. So well done on that. It's lindsay.co.uk. There you'll find it's called Bad Teacher, the post. So that's Lindsay, LINDZI.co.uk. And there, click on Bad Teacher. That's the article she was referring to. And later on this morning, we'll be hearing from one Leicestershire mum who can't afford enough food for her family, and from a charity food bank charity in